TBN View, the crisis of truth on World Press Freedom Day. Today, as the world discusses press freedom, we must ask, freedom for whom?
World Press Freedom Day arrived this year in an era of total information saturation. We have more access to news than any generation in history, yet the truth feels increasingly obscured. We have to examine who this freedom actually serves. Traditional censorship relies on a solid wall to block information. Modern manipulation is more sophisticated. The barrier shatters and reforms into a maze. Instead of silencing data, this system misdirects it, using an overload of strategic half-truths to cognitively manipulate the public. Certain media factions now use the press freedom label as a protective shield for this maze. By operating behind this banner, they hollow out the democratic function of the press, while the foundational pillars of the fourth pillar begin to crack. The modern threat to an informed public is the deliberate, strategic manufacturing of a selective reality. Take a factual event, represented by this circle. The half-truth mechanism mechanically removes original fragments, replacing them with identically shaped, ideologically colored pieces, creating an artificial reality. This requires a narrative monopoly. Original pieces are swept away, ensuring a single ideological agenda dominates the frame. Presenting only one side of a story serves as a subtle form of perception control. It achieves the isolation of formal censorship without ever appearing to block the flow of information. Radical elements now utilize the guise of journalism to normalize these fragments. By embedding half-truths within mainstream reporting, they grant radical narratives a veneer of legitimacy. By monopolizing the narrative and filtering out the broader context, these entities have transitioned from reporting the news to operating as factories for manufactured consent. When these tactics are deployed on a national scale, they directly challenge India's media sovereignty, the right of a nation to have its progress judged on its own factual merits. While India shows a strong upward trend in democratic growth, global press rankings move oppositely, dragged down by external data nodes. Zooming in reveals a closed circuit. Data travels from biased domestic sources to international bodies, publishing rankings based entirely on fragmented perspectives. This pipeline often aligns with external funding sources. When domestic media outlets rely on foreign capital, the resulting reporting frequently prioritizes the geopolitical interests of the donors over the stability and unity of the nation. This creates a self-validating feedback loop. Radical factions generate half-truths at home, which are then certified as objective facts by international organizations to undermine the nation's credibility. International press freedom metrics have become weaponized half-truths. They are tools of global leverage used to compromise India's national interests under the guise of advocacy. A press that relies on selective silence functions as a controlled instrument of propaganda. Reclaiming India's narrative requires a defensive framework built on the India First philosophy. To protect media integrity, we must support it with three foundational pillars. The first pillar is transparency. This involves aggressively exposing the hidden funding and the specific ideological agendas that drive independent media groups. The second pillar is accuracy. Viewers must look past fragmented headlines and demand the full, unvarnished context that makes a story complete. The third pillar is accountability. Freedom of speech carries a profound civic responsibility. It is not a license to subvert the nation through misinformation. In this information war, the survival of a vibrant democracy depends on the vigilance of its citizens. We must move beyond being passive consumers. Every citizen must become an active truth seeker to protect their own perspective and the sovereignty of the nation.
आधुनिक मीडिया में आधे सच की राजनीति और सूचना की हेरफेर पर ये है आपका त्वरित सारांश। विश्व प्रेस स्वतंत्रता दिवस के मौके पर ना हमें खुद से ये ज़रूर पूछना चाहिए कि क्या स्वतंत्रता के नाम पर आपको जो खबरें मिल रही हैं वो सचमुच पूरा सच है या फिर आपके दिमाग से खेलने के लिए बड़ी चालाकी से गढ़ा गया कोई बनाया हुआ सच। तो चलिए इसके मुख्य टेकअवेज पर बात करते हैं। पहला, इस आधे सच का एक हथियार की तरह इस्तेमाल होना। देखिए, एक खास एजेंडे के तहत कुछ वामपंथी कट्टरपंथी पत्रकारिता का मुखौटा पहनकर सिर्फ अपनी एकतरफा कहानी चला रहे हैं। सोचिए, ये आधा सच बिल्कुल उस दवा की तरह है जिसका आधा हिस्सा जहर हो। दूसरा बड़ा मुद्दा है भारत की मीडिया संप्रभुता पर सीधा हमला। जब ये आधा सच ग्लोबल लेवल पर फैलता है ना, तो हमारी प्रेस रैंकिंग अक्सर उन बायस्ड संस्थाओं के डेटा पर तय हो जाती है जिन्हें भारत की तरक्की से ही चिढ़ है। क्या आपको नहीं लगता कि ये इंडिया फर्स्ट की सोच को अस्थिर करने का एक सोचा समझा तरीका है? और अंत में आती है पत्रकारिता की जवाबदेही। इस प्रोपेगेंडा को रोकने के लिए मीडिया फंडिंग में पूरी पारदर्शिता, खबर का सटीक संदर्भ और जिम्मेदारी बहुत जरूरी है। बोलने की आज़ादी का मतलब सरेआम झूठ फैलाने का लाइसेंस बिल्कुल नहीं है। सच तो ये है कि जो प्रेस सिर्फ आधा सच बोलती है, वो स्वतंत्र नहीं बल्कि प्रोपेगेंडा फैलाने का एक टूल है। तो आज के इस उलझे हुए सूचना जाल में सिर्फ मूक दर्शक मत बनिए, बल्कि उस छिपे हुए आधे सच को पहचान कर सच्चाई की तलाश करने वाले जागरूक अन्वेषक बनिए।
Remember, choice is not longer just political, it is a matter of national survival.